How's it going, lazy Bruces? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back finally to the VII Enigma. Or was it the 7th Enigma? I forgot what we were going to call it. The 7 Enigma. It's been a while since I recorded this last because I was just finishing up the Divine Deception, but that is all done and dusted now. It's probably still uploading at this point, but it's all recorded. So it's time to dive into the 7 Enigma fully and see how this story is going to play out, shall we? In response to his earlier summoning, Beckett's troops arrive promptly to his room. They stand at attention without the slightest sign of movement, ready to receive their orders. I have called you here because I have a highly important, highly classified mission for you all. This is not one you may fail. Is that clear? Yes, sir. We have an escaped prisoner we need apprehended. In your documents you'll see a copy of his neural ID. There is no match on record, and the unstable nature of its signature means that even our scanners throughout the city may not alert us to his presence. Permission to speak, sir. Granted. How is it possible there's no ID match? How can we locate him if he won't trigger our scanners? We don't know how it's possible, officer. This has not happened before. However, we do have a surveillance image from his entrance to the facility. It was fortunate we hadn't decommissioned the tech yet, because at present, it is our main lead. An image, sir? Is that a problem, officer? A sharp sneer leaves Beckett's lips, in sharp contrast to his earlier speech. No, sir. Apologies, sir. I just meant to ask, how can we catch him using only an image? There is an old technology called facial recognition. We used it to run a search. It may be unreliable compared to neural ID, but it has at least narrowed it down to a small list of candidates. You'll see them in your files. Unfortunately, due to the time difference between our reference images, it could be anyone on this list. Sir, one of the people on this list is the Dr. Shaw. Isn't he the hero who died over 8 years ago? I have listed every individual who came up as a strong match in the search within the data range, deceased or not. Whoever this is, they are clearly an enigma. He said it, enigma. We leave no stone unturned. Yes, sir. Finally, he's likely accompanied by a group of well-trained operatives. Investigate in squads of 3 and be on guard. Based on their extraction method, they are familiar with the tunnel systems and may have their hideout there. Prioritize searching that area. Yes, sir. Report to me regularly with updates until he is found and brought here. I will accept no excuses, is that clear? Yes, sir. Team, move out. Yes, sir. After the troops clear out, silence once again returns to the facility. Do you really believe Dr. Shaw could still be alive? Hard to say. They certainly look alike, and the prisoner also was a mystery in his own right. Who has ever heard of a person without a matching neural ID? That calls into question the Bureau's control completely. Careful, sir. Statements like that could be misinterpreted. True, though you know how I'm not stupid enough to think of defying them. Why did you not inform the troops of the peculiar object he was carrying? Was that not another vital lead that might aid them in finding it? There is an old saying, don't cast your pearls before swine. I first need to find out what it is. It could be of particular value. I'll need you to focus all your attention and resources on examining it. Determine what it is as quickly as possible, and report back to me. Yes, sir. The assistant exits the room, leaving Beckett alone with his thoughts. He stares with eyes unfocused as the words of his assistant ring in his mind. He casts his mind back to the defining moment in his dedication to the Bureau. Reminiscence. Okay, we're going back in time. Dad, why do you have to leave? It isn't something I want to do, son. I want to stay here with you and your mother. I'd give anything for that to be possible. Then just stay. I don't understand, isn't that what you want? It is, more than anything, but son, we don't live in that kind of world anymore. I don't get it, why are you leaving us? I'm going to tell you something I want you to remember. Promise me you won't forget. Only if you promise to stay. I promise I'll do what I can for you, okay? Now listen to me carefully. Okay. I know you're a risk taker. You're unlucky in getting too much of my genes, new boy. But you know, you cannot change this world. It has gone too far. Its rulers are set. It is impossible to defy them now. That door has now closed. I know that too well. Dad, survive. Keep your head down. Work your way up. Make the most of what you can. I want you to survive. Be smart and don't defy them like your idiot father. Survive. Dad, what door is closed? Where are you going? You'll know soon enough, son. I love you. Take care of your mother for me. Dad, wait! That was the last time I saw my father. After that, he simply vanished. When I was older, I joined the defense division of the Bureau, keeping my head down and working my way up, just like he said. Then I learned he'd been executed for subversion attempts against the Bureau. He gave himself in to protect my mother and I. That is what he meant when he promised he would do what he could for us on that day. I'll never forget his words. They're etched onto me. I will bide my time. I'll work my way up. I will get my hands dirty. I'll obey every order. Until the time when the power is mine and I can rise above them all. I will obey. I will survive. This is my creed. That was my final promise to him. The group is seated on the ground around the small central fire, plates in hand as they speed through their meal. Good food, eh, Elijah? Yeah, I thought we'd be eating some horrible rashes or something, so this is a welcome surprise. What is this anyway? It's a curry dish made with a chicken alternative. So this isn't real chicken? How rich do you think we are? Of course it isn't real chicken. There's one thing outside of his mission that Iker is passionate about, it's cooking. With the right ingredients, he can make the stuff taste almost like the real thing. Better than the real thing, I believe you meant to say. Well, better watch out. Team leader's gonna spike your next dish if you say something like that again. I would never. What about the time you poisoned Jasper's dish after he insulted your synthetic fried fish? That wasn't my fault, it was that... As the two men continue to bicker, Zyla turns to Elijah. Don't worry, Elijah. Iker and Levi go at it like this sometimes. Levi jokes about everything and Iker couldn't smell a joke if it was under his nose. It's okay, it's kinda nice. Something about it feels homely, I guess. It's nice to see you smile at least. Well, time to stop these two anyway. Okay, time to move on, guys. Ah, yes. Sorry. You all seem pretty close. You been together a while? Iker and I have, the others not as long. We spend so much time together though that we've become like a little family fairly quickly. Jasper switches positions, walking over and sitting himself next to Elijah. You feeling okay now, Elijah? Yeah, good as I can be, I guess. Then now's probably the time to fill you in on the rest then, if you're up to it. They sure are hitting me with a lot of information up front. It's hard to know what to make of it all. I'm just trying to piece myself together, let alone all these crazy claims. Still, there's no point dragging this out. I'm gonna have to find out sooner or later. I can figure out what I think of all this when I have more information. I'm ready. Let's continue. So where were we up to? I just heard about the temper system, how it can be used to send messages to the past, and how Bosk has used it to take control. Then you said something strange about how there wouldn't be much of humanity left with Bosk. Okay, got it. The rest of the group grow silent as they turn their attention to Jasper as he pulls out his tablet. Strap yourself in for this one, Elijah. It's a lot to take in. Now that you know how the temper system works, it's time I share the full story of what happened in the original timeline, called Line 0. That is how the transmitter was built, and how Bosk rose to power. The key to that event that led to all of this was a deadly pandemic that struck the world in the year 2047. It was on a scale much worse than anything to hit the planet before it. This new type of virus, called the FEV47, had the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. It was the worst symptom. Its worst symptom was severe swelling it inflicted on the brain. It was a horrible disease that caused intense suffering before an almost certain death. Survival rates were well under 1% of those that caught it, and those that did survive were left severely disabled. Absolutely horrible. To make matters worse, the disease was also highly infectious. Of course, governments instigated all kinds of protocols to try and stop the spread of the disease, but ultimately they can only slow the spread while they search for a cure or vaccine. Whilst they were researching the disease, another project garnered a huge amount of attention and funding. Care to guess what it was? The temper system. Correct. The first receiver was already completed by Dr. Tara Evans in 2044. If they succeeded in creating a transmitter, they could send a warning to the past. They could also send instructions for how to make a vaccine or cure back 3 years before it appeared. They could save billions of lives and stop the disease before it ever happened. Everything was poured into these two projects. Those that were left accepted their only hope was to complete these projects before humanity's end. The vaccine for the virus, along with the instructions of how to develop vaccines for likely mutant strands, was completed first in 2056. The population left alive at the time was estimated to be about 100 million. 100 million? Whoa! I never knew it got that bad. Yes, and although there was now a vaccine, there were other issues that flowed on from the devastation of society. Lack of manpower and skills meant that starvation, among other things, was just around the corner for the majority of people. It was a race against time to complete the transmitter before humanity collapsed completely. But what many considered to be a complete miracle, their breakthrough came at the end of 2057. They figured out how to reliably pair the receiver with the transmitter, ensuring stable communication through the entangled Tempest particles. After a few more years, the transmitter was completed in 2059. The miracle of 59 is a story we're reminded of constantly. The fact we're all here is a miracle. It's a cautionary tale for us to not take our safety for granted. So that's what happened on Line 0. Though now is the year 2060, so that all happened in the past. I guess they succeeded in their plan, but how? How did they manage to convince people of the past to take the threat seriously, that it wasn't some prank? Receiving a message and a vaccine, claiming to be from the future doesn't sound very convincing, let alone getting it developed and injected worldwide. Oh yeah, never thought about that one. How did they do it? While they were developing the machine, they spent years creating a digital package for the past governments containing all kinds of proofs. Videos and photos of the future and the disease's impacts, technological breakthroughs, governmental information, they left nothing to chance. The digital evidence they sent was overwhelming. That must have been a big file size. Is the Tempest system able to send that much data at once? Yeah, pretty easily too. It does take quite some time for the machine to decode the information on this end after receiving the file, but other than that, large file sizes are no problem. Anyway, I'm sure you'll hear more along the way, so let's give you the short version of the rest for now. On this new loop, Dr. Tara Evans received the transmission from 2059 almost instantly after starting up her receiver for the first time in 2044. She contacted the government, and very swiftly it was decided to dedicate a group of experts needed to be the ones to look into it and decide how to respond to the situation. Chosen for the roles were the top experts in various scientific and health fields, as well as representatives from various technological institutes. The Bureau of Safety Control's formation. The Bureau had a difficult task, but in fairness to them, they did an incredible job at the time. They thoroughly examined the information sent through the system, then they managed to convince the world to take the threat seriously. That was no small feat, given how extraordinary the claims were. The vaccines were prepared, and through a huge global effort, the world was saved. 13 years ago from today, the pandemic hit the world, just as the Tempest message predicted, with around 12 million casualties. Whilst tragic, that means about 8 billion lives were saved compared to the first loop. 8 billion lives were saved. I guess a group of dedicated experts would be able to respond much more effectively than governments. Saving so many lives, that really is incredible. After the vaccination effort, measures were tightened in the name of our safety. As you can imagine, the world was on edge after both the pandemic and the knowledge of the Tempest system, so Bosk stepped in to fill the gap. Right, learning of the pandemic that could wipe out all of humanity and the knowledge that time could be manipulated, that would of course cause an absolute panic. Bosk used this fear as an opportunity to wield their newfound powers, and then began endeavouring to take the lead in a broader sense of associated safety issues. Neural scanners were installed throughout the cities to check for unusual brain size and activity, all in preparation for a variant strain of the disease. Everyone was okay with this. It seemed to be a smart precaution at the time. Bosk had made the Tempest system public knowledge, including allowing some of the video and photo evidence sent through the last loop to be shown on mainstream media. If they'd not done this, there was no way they could have garnered the support for the vaccination effort. Apart from its existence, and that footage, they kept most things to do with the Tempest system a secret. The workings of the machine were, of course, a secret, even from governments. The risk of it being used for the wrong purposes was far too high. If you can send information to the past, you can essentially manipulate and control the future. People just get used to trusting Bosk. After all, it seemed they had proven themselves through the time of the pandemic. Somebody had to guard this technology, and the people of the world felt more comfortable with a group of experts in Bosk rather than any government. I guess a trusted monopoly is better than being out in the open. Otherwise it'd be an all-out time manipulation war. Yeah, the governments would fight over it, of course. Since then, Bosk has slowly taken away more and more control of our lives. The brain scanner suddenly became also used for ID tracking, not just scanning for mutations of the disease. Of course, this is all done in the name of safety. After all, if you're doing nothing wrong, you don't have anything to be afraid of, do you? The technology used by Bosk suddenly became more sophisticated, whilst that accessible to the population had hardly changed at all in decades. It is almost certainly the case that they have been sending future tech back to the past to strengthen their control, or as they would say, for our safety. There is no way to know how many loops Bosk has gone through since the first message received from Line 0. All we know is that in the last few years the restrictions on our lives have gotten significantly worse. Yeah, those Bosk bastards have got it to the point where you feel like you can't blink without their permission. Something's got to give. So, is it your goal to take down Bosk? How do you plan to do that? If it was up to us, we would have no hope. We're here to follow the Founder's plan. He is our only hope. Speaking of which, I think it's time you heard from him directly. We will go first thing tomorrow. Everyone be prepared to move out. Right. I think that's enough for tonight. The rest will become clear tomorrow. Make sure you get a good night's sleep. We have no idea what tomorrow will hold. After being shown to a portable sleeping mat, Elijah lies down in the now cavernous dark of the underground base. Though he feels exhausted, the disquiet of the circumstances and surroundings impressed itself upon Elijah as he opens his eyes in restlessness. His thoughts swirl as he tried to make sense of the magnitude of his present circumstances. Just what in the world have I been caught in the middle of? Global conspiracies? Memory loss? This is absurd. That stuff doesn't happen in real life. But how do I even know that? What am I even basing this off? I can't remember anything. This is beyond bizarre. Is any of this even real, or have I just gone insane? Elijah pinches himself, desperate to gain clarity among the confusion. Something isn't quite right here. Why is this group so interested in helping me? They do seem nice enough, but I can't be sure that I can trust them. In fact, right now I can't be sure of anything. Time travel? Really? A group is making imperceptible changes to reality that we have to stop. And I'm supposed to be in the midst of it all? I have to be careful. This could just as easily be a ploy to string me along. This group probably wants something out of me. Then again, when they mentioned Dr. Tara Evans, something definitely came to mind. I don't think their story is a complete fabrication at the very least. Zyla seems genuine though. You mean you got the hots for her, so I'm gonna trust everything she says. If she wasn't around, I don't know if I'd be able to trust these guys at all. There's something about her too. Yeah, it's the boobs. But I can't let myself get carried away. Fucking... never mind. I have to remain skeptical until I'm sure I can really trust them. Until I recover some of my memories. I have to watch and wait while I gain as much information as possible. Hopefully this meeting with the Founder tomorrow will make it all clear. Despite Elijah's attempts, he is unable to regain any memories, nor gain any clarity. Eventually sleep does come for Elijah, though it's not nearly as restful as he would have hoped. Viribus, 2098. Weren't we in 2060? Are we going to the future now? In a dark room, 12 figures are seated in Congress. Everything seems to be within acceptable bounds. Has anyone found any discrepancies in the timeline? Nothing to report. No destabilizing events have been noticed. Only minor corrections were made by the Watchers. Most likely trivial, but we will not allow humanity's progress to become destabilized. The cloaked figures nod in agreement. Has there been any progress on Report Aeon? Data has been accumulating steadily. Not only has our sample size continued to increase, but the level of detail in our brain data has also significantly improved. A significant improvement. It won't be long now until we reach our goal. We are readying it for delivery through the Temper system. We must reconvene to discuss the year for our plans to find their fulfillment. We must not grow complacent during these closing chapters. If you have a matter that needs the Temper system to solve, be sure to submit it here. We will soon achieve our long-held goal. Finally, humanity will be born anew. Yes, Tiamat has given birth to her children and shall now be cut in two. If one word of caution should be given, it is that such points of turning it is the little things that give rise to anarchy. Such has been the case for all eras. Do not let your guard down, even for a moment. We may have remained unparalleled for countless loops, though fate has no memory, leaving nothing to chance. You are correct, but remember we are merely bringing to completion that which all things have been striving towards, and so the tides of fate remain on our side. We should reconvene more regularly now that the day approaches. Indeed. To conclude their meeting, they lift up a shout in unison, as if a prayer to the heavens. Toward the Aeon. Interesting. January 24th, 2060, so we're back in regular time? Our time? Elijah time? The next day, Beckett walks into the room with a sense of urgency. What's your report? I know what to tell you, sir. This technology is nothing like I've seen before. The assistant's eyes stay fixed on the strange orb. Have you searched the database for Tempest class technology? Yes, sir. It doesn't come up on any of the files, even up to the high-level clearance. Either this requires a clearance only the 12 have access to, or This is technology not even the Bureau know about. Surely that's impossible. If the technology exists, they must know about it. Maybe, sir. The only way to find out would be to notify them of what has happened and ask them to check. You know we can't do that, not until we've recaptured the prisoner. Are you sure, sir? They may well be lenient with you, given it wasn't your fault. Fool! Beckett slams his hand on the table suddenly and howls with a distorted voice. Do you have any idea how ruthless they've become? They don't have time for patience. They need no patience. This is their world. All we can do is put our heads down and succeed. Succeed or we're dead. There is nothing else. That is our only option. We must survive. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. Taking a moment, Beckett takes a few deep breaths, slicks back his hair, and then continues in his normal speaking tone, as if nothing happened. Okay, run me through your initial thoughts on what the orb could be. Yes, sir. The assistant, clearly rattled, tries to regain his composure over shallow breaths. It may sound strange to you, sir, but some of these unusual patterns within the orb remind me of the structured patterns within our brain. Go on. Well, the vein-like tracks here on the orb follow a similar path to the patterns that our brain ID scans we look for as an identifier. I see. Have you thought about attempting a brain ID scan on the orb? I did try, however there is no electrical pattern being emitted by the orb. There is always the possibility that it needs a certain type of power source, or perhaps there is even a trick to activating it. Yes, well, I expect you to leave no stone unturned in finding that trick. I'll do everything I can, sir. Everything you can is not what I need. I'm heading up to the field myself now. When I get back, I expect you to have cracked its secret. Do not disappoint me on my return. Yes, sir. Man, when you said we'd be heading off first thing in the morning, I didn't think you meant this early. It really isn't that early, it's just the lack of light in these tunnels that make it feel that way. Where are we, anyway? The group trudges through a maze of damp, dark tunnels. Under the city of Viribus, northern sector, and the tunnel systems. Nobody comes down here, so it makes the perfect place for a base. Do you remember much of the city? I think I do. It just feels like I can't bring it to mind right now. It feels eerily quiet down here, though. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Why haven't they found us or guarded this area yet? Seems like they're inviting us here, no? There are neural ID scanners on all the entrances to the tunnels, and likely some down here as well. I believe the Bureau has grown too reliant on these scanners though, probably because it hasn't failed them before. We've just exploited that. We'll have to succeed in this loop then, otherwise they'll use the temper system and next time they'll be prepared for us. I get why I have to avoid detection, but how have you all not been picked up by the ID scanners? Excuse me. You all still have your memories. Iker points to a small square patch stuck into the back of his neck. The founder sent us through plans for a highly sophisticated bit of technology that can cloak the presence of brainwave patterns. To create something that does this without interference, alerting Bosk is quite a feat. Speaking of which, Jasper reaches into his pocket and pulls out another square patch, slapping it onto the back of Elijah's neck. Better safe than sorry. This will make sure they can't detect you for whatever happens down the line. It only works on normal scanners you find at a distance, though. If you were to get caught and hauled in, it'd be all over. If Elijah was alive all along, he must have used something like this the whole time. Wait, maybe he resorted to wiping his memories as a last-ditch effort when he realized he couldn't avoid getting caught. But why would he do that? Getting caught is bad, but losing your memories ain't no good either. Think about it, Levi. Dr. Shaw was assumed dead. He must have had a good reason to disappear for all those years. Maybe he had something he needed to protect. Elijah, was there anything on you when you were captured? Any clues to what you were doing? Oh right, my head's been so muddled I completely forgot. I had this strange clear stone-like thing. They took it off me though. Clear, could you describe any more features of it? It's about the size to sit in your hand and your fingers would wrap halfway around it. It was weighty. You could see through it, but it had a milkiness to it. But the strangest thing is it had a dark pattern inside it. Kinda looked like ink does when first dropped in water, but a bit sharper maybe. It's hard to describe. They ran like veins throughout the object. Strange. Jasper, you ever heard any technology like that? No, nothing even close to that. Seems to be quite the mystery. All we can do is hope. The founder will have something to say about it. A plasma ball. Speaking of which, we have arrived. Before them is a small opening between two pipes, large enough for only one person at a time. Everyone take a flashlight. There are no service lights up ahead. Levi, you take the front, I'll take the rear. Watch your head, Elijah. Some of the pipes drop down a little lower in the middle. Thanks. The group carefully make their way into the small opening, which appears roughly 10 meters long. In single file, they slowly navigate the tight passageway. The width and protruding pipework get tighter the further they delve in, as their pace slows to a crawl. This is so claustrophobic. You'll fit, just keep moving. I'd hate for my flashlight to go out in here, that'd be way too scary. You'll be fine, Levi. Don't freak yourself out. The space becomes only barely traversable right at the end, when after a particularly tight section they pop out one by one into a small dead-end chamber. What a creepy room. The group stands staring at the lone console situated at the centre of the dark chamber. I thought we were going to meet the founder. I actually said it was about time you heard from him, not that we were actually going to meet him. None of us has met him in person. I feel like I recognise that machine. Iker gives a glance over to Jasper, who gives a small nod in response. Care to try activate it? Activate it? How could I possibly do that? Just walk up and have a closer look. See if anything comes to you. So they want me for something to do with this machine. I guess something about it does feel familiar, though I have no idea what to do, or what their purpose for bringing me here is. There isn't really much I can do right now. I'm here alone with them, and no way out of this chamber. For now I should go along with it and have a look at this machine. Jasper gives another side glance to Iker as Elijah slowly walks over to the console. Elijah, having glanced at the strange machine. Now apparently the choices in this game work like... basically one is a success and one is a bad end. So one of these is going to be a win and one is going to be a fail. So we should save before each one. And that's apparently... it hasn't really got branching paths in that, it just has bad endings. But anyway, let's just extend my hand toward the console. Elijah extends his hand toward the console. He touches the smooth, flat panel to the right of the screen, and as if guided by some invisible force, his fingers dance upon the surface in a particular array. A robotic voice rings out from the console. Tactile pattern and biometrics confirmed. Administrator mode activated. Welcome, Dr. Elijah Shaw. Iker smiles as he glances at Jasper before taking a step forward. What is this thing? This, Elijah, is a Tempest terminal. Huh? A Tempest terminal? How was I able to log into it? Repetitive movement habits such as walking, chewing, or even entering a passcode you've entered countless times before. These mainly rely on a midbrain structure and the basal ganglia. Simply put, you don't need to consciously remember it. It is like your body remembered it for you. You mean I've logged into this machine many times before? For it to be so thoroughly ingrained in your habitual movements, you have likely logged into this using this movement code thousands of times. This tech, which utilizes a movement code along with other biometric makers, was the prominent ID feature used before Bosk's neural ID scan replaced it. It looks like an older unit, so it still uses that system. If I'm so well acquainted with their technology, I must be strongly connected to Bosk. Not sure what that means for my past. Don't worry, Elijah. We've just been trying not to overwhelm you with too much info at once, after what your mind went through. It's a privilege to have you on our team. I promise to fill you in on the rest later, but for now, we have some information we must retrieve. We have to assume that the agent you escaped from is on our tail, and we don't want him to follow us to this terminal. We shouldn't take any more time around here than we need. It's true, I'm sure Beckett will be coming to look for us. I can't expect them to spend any more time explaining every little detail to me. Okay, as long as you promise to answer all my questions about myself and this Tempest machine later, then I'll do what you need. Deal. Right. Now using the touch device on the right, go past the menu and see if there are any messages. Okay, let's see. There, on the left. The one that says received July 2059. Administration access required. It's from the founder. The founder? Why did he send it to me and why way back then? Click play, Elijah. Let's see what he has to say. Alright then, here we go. Hello. If you're hearing this message, it means you've successfully extracted Dr. Shaw and you've successfully logged into this machine. I wish I could express to you how big a miracle that is and how much we had to go out of our way for this to happen, but now is not the time. The reason I've encrypted this message for administration access only was to ensure that you only viewed this message after retrieving Dr. Shaw, as you'll be needed for the next part of your mission. Please understand I have laid out this plan very carefully, but its success stands on a knife's edge. From here on we cannot make even a single mistake. If Bosk here were to catch wind of our plans and send preventative measures through the Tempest system, our final hope would be lost. As such, I have and will continue to lay out the plans one step at a time. This will not only keep you on track but also minimize how much information they will gain if you are caught. I'm sorry to keep you in the dark like this, but it is the only way. Now that you are all together and Dr. Shaw is with you, it's time for you to know the true target of our mission. Pandora's box. What? the nickname given to the rumoured prototype Tempest receiver from 2043, a year before the official first receiver. It was nicknamed this because if it existed, it would cause chaos to the system Bosk had so neatly prepared. If we find Pandora's box, we could send information back to a time before Bosk's control. Then we would be the ones with the power to change the timeline. As it is, we cannot send Tempest messages back to anywhere near this time period, as Bosk would be instantly alerted. They possessed every machine from that period. Their monopoly of being able to send information at the earliest point is the crux of their control. Furthermore, having access to this terminal will give us a head start in the next stage of our plans. To send a message to the Tempest terminal, you must be able to lock onto it. Find its address, so to speak. Otherwise the information will never reach its target. You must find the Tempest field identifier sequence of Pandora's box to be able to send information to it. Unfortunately, in the time I'm from, it has already been destroyed. To get the identifier, you must log into the machine and look it up using an administrator ID. Only someone with administrator privileges is able to do this. Dr. Shaw, that is where you come in. This is your next mission. Locate Pandora's box and have Dr. Shaw download the identifier sequence. Attached to this message are details on locations, extra resources for your journey, and finally, a video from myself only to be played when you arrive at Pandora's box. Download the files from this unit and take them with you, and be prepared to destroy them quickly if you think you'll be captured. Finally, you must delete all files within this unit and then destroy the terminal. Iker Davis, I trust you have made the preparations I instructed you of for your base also. We cannot let this information fall into their hands. All our hopes now lie in finding Pandora's box. I'm counting on you. Good luck. A silence falls to the group after the founder's revelation. I can't believe Pandora's box is real. I'll start downloading the files off the terminal. I'll then initiate the wipe. Should be about 10 minutes until both are finished. Okay team, we need to be ready to move by the time he finishes. Kinda pisses me off, the founder stringing us along like that. How do we know we can trust him? I guess we can't know, we just have to hope and move forward. That's all we have left at this point anyway. Yeah, I know, but I still don't like it. I don't like a man who won't be upfront with you. I think he's being as upfront as he can be. At this point we can't risk any information falling into their hands. He's doing what he feels he has the best chance of success with the least possible risk. Maybe. Guess we'll find out. My head, why is it hurting so much after hearing that message? This feeling, it's like back then. What is happening to me? I might just take a break for a moment. My head is killing me. Elijah slinks to the floor, resting his back on the chamber wall. You gonna be okay? Yeah, it's just my head. Sometimes it's really hard to focus. Things come in, then slip away again. It's kind of scary, to be honest. You've been feeling like this the whole time? Yeah, it's like a sense of dread, like I'm about to fall into oblivion, but I can't remember how to stop it. Elijah's breathing starts increasing in pace as both hands firmly clutch his head. It's okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought it up. We just need to get your mind off it. Just relax and breathe. Zala sits next to Elijah and places a soothing hand on his back, seeking to calm his panicked state. After a few minutes, Elijah's breathing becomes less erratic. He begins to calm and release the grip on his head. It's really amazing you're doing this well, Elijah, considering the trauma your mind has been through. Remember, the more you strain, the worse it'll get, though. Don't try hard to remember, just relax. And at the right time, things should start coming back to you. How do you know, though? Did you have to strain to remember the passcode then? It came naturally. And there's no reason to think the rest won't come back naturally also. Elijah pauses to ponder Iker's words when he continues. Anyway, Jasper's almost done, so we only got a few minutes before we move out. Clear your mind and be ready. I don't want to rush you, but we can't afford to take any longer than we need. Sorry. I guess this isn't a great moment to freak out. It's okay, I can do it. I'll be ready. Alright, we better wrap this one up here because we're just over half an hour. Seems perfect. And we're back to Beckett again. I don't like Beckett much, but it sounds like he's got a grudge against Bosk as well. So, he might turn on them later as well. We shall see. He might end up joining this team over here. I don't know. He's pretty harsh. He's a pretty harsh dude. I'm loving the story so far. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for getting out for me, and I'll see you in the next one.